meeting to order. Roll call.
Ms. Muckout.
Here.
Mr. Olson. Mr. Walker. Mr. Erkins.
Here.
Mr. Rastakar.
Here.
We do have a quorum. So I think Jim is traveling and so is Jody. So, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'll be giving the update on the Aquatic Center today. Brian could make it, but he sent me over some bullet points. So.
Okay. Seeing no other changes, move forward. Approval of the minutes, regular meeting dated August 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 17th.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. On to the monthly activity and financial report. Anne Marie.
Thank you. Couple of added notes here. On the 14th, John Sheldon is in the audience today, sent me over an email that came. It's based on it says LGBTQ rights. California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed legislation repealing a 7-year-old law banning state employee travel to other states where anti-LGBTQ laws are on the books. The ban caused headaches for state agencies and student athletes. California will pay for a state-funded advertising campaign spreading messages of inclusivity in red states. That's out of Sacramento Bee, and that's from the 14th. So obviously the legislation, or hopefully this will be a precursor to other states who have similar travel bans to rescind them, and people realize that as a state we are very welcoming, and as an industry that the travel bans were actually hurting. I think some of the people that they were, thinking they were trying to help. So anyway, it's good news on that, and thanks, John, for keeping me on point on that one. Mary Michael and Cliff worked on a facilities and destinations article, of which we're in this month. Boise Center, Meet Here, Inspire Here. Some great photos, Boise Center quick facts. So nicely done, Mary Michael, Cliff. Thank you for this. Nice recognition in facilities and destinations. As you know, the 2024 budget and marketing plan are being developed. There will be some discussion in a bit about the finance committee meeting and the budget draft. Big letters, draft. The initial numbers that we're looking at. Meeting went really well. Jody and Kristen met with us last week. It was a public meeting. It was publicly posted. No attendance or no attendees other than those from the finance committee and staff. Meetings with coding community members is going well. Trying to get Cody introduced to some of the folks around that we have been dealing with at a high level. We've got a meeting with Meridian representative schedule. Well, I'm waiting to hear back. They've got some moving targets over there, so I'm trying to get with them shortly. The Q4 for us traditionally is our strongest quarter, although in the past we started out, Q1, Q2 has been good too. But Q4 looking extremely busy. Staffing levels are strong. I think we're up to about 240 again, if not 250. We've added, I think, 8 positions this week, or eight people just this week. So again, nice referrals from friends. Get friends coming to work here. So ongoing staff training in CPR and first aid actually took place a week ago. There are ongoing trainings we do at least twice a year. We do CPR first aid training. And then Cody's been.
That made me think of something. Do you guys have the defibrillators here? AED? Okay.
Oh yeah. That training too.
Okay.
And then Brandon Doty has been working with the FBI. He's got some new FBI contacts, and Department of Homeland Security. And so we're looking to do some additional high-level training with them, active shooter and that sort of thing. And then we invite them in to do some of their own training here. So we're doing a DBA. It's not sponsored, but the Downtown Boise Association Bars and Restaurants. We're hosting a meeting for them, in which our team is included in. Going through with BPD and even the fire department comes. So first responders come and just talk about the restaurant bar business. And again, it's an annual meeting. We've hosted it before. So that's October 5th. All staff meeting held like August 25th, and several longevity awards were presented, especially Laura Brown with 30 years combined service with the CVB in the center. Since the CVB reps and Mary Michael was one at the time who came from the CVB to join our team back in 2010. But because they've supported us, even though they weren't a direct employee of Lake Center, we tried to recognize their support of the center over time. So, picture of several of the awardees, and we do five-year increments. So it's 5 up to 30 this year. So exciting group. This was Albertson's open dinner. Again, I like to include every month some highlights of things that we've done in the last month, and the dinners and just the way the room looks. So it's very impressive when you are in the room and clients walk in and they stand there and they go, wow. You know, things are lined up. I mean, for the most part, you can look down any of the tables, the chairs, the glasses. It's pretty impressive what the team can accomplish. So to the numbers side, I'll be a broken record for a couple more months. The numbers are continue to look good. Revenues are strong. We're controlling on the expense side. Hear more about the year-end forecast. I'll let Anne Marie and Cody speak to that. But otherwise, the numbers themselves are looking good and continue to look positive. Number of events and event days again continue to look great. You'll see the sort of similar numbers reflected for the budget for next year as well. I think we've got 270 events on the budget for next year. 200 local and 70 conventions. There'll be some discussion. Again, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I mean, we're to the point where our availability is limited. You take out Sundays and holidays, and then automatically you cut down the number of availability days, and then the number of functions that you can actually have that make sense to take in the course of a day. So you'll hear more about that on the budget side, but from a forecast for year end, I'm very pleased about where we're going to be in the economic impact actually that we'll have on the community on the Treasure Valley. So I'm excited about that. A couple of quick highlights here. From June to July, we were down 28 cents in average rate for this year. And as a comparative, it was 156 and 156.28. So we're seeing a flattening of ADR and demand, which in this case, I think it's a good thing. We've been down in demand every month since October, and I've reported about that previously, but it looks like it's all stabilized. And as I've shared before, I look at the Boise City market and then the market that includes more of the county, which extends into Meridian. And the trends are exactly the same. It's called Group 1, Group 2 on Star Report. But I think it's all good trends. It's all very positive. I mean, there's still strength in the market for sure. And where we're down consistently year on year. So again, that's why I think it's flattening. There are a few properties that remain to open this year out by Topgolf. There's a Wyndham property that's not open yet. And when I met with Tommy Alquist a few weeks ago, he said there's a Marriott that they're building out there as well. So those properties are all within the district boundaries. There's a couple of others that have opened across Eagle Road to the west that are select service properties, but those are outside the district. But those that are inside the district, those will have a positive impact on us. But I think the decline actually has been on the highway traffic. Again, it's not significant, a couple thousand room nights, but because the downtown properties are still saying that they're full all the time, and the rates are obviously higher than the highway. The Avery is open, but obviously there's still a couple of hotels downtown that will open next spring. And so the Renegade and the Sparrow. The Wren is over in Washington, sorry. Sparrow, not significant, about 50-ish rooms, but again, still add downtown, and they tend to command as high a rate as like hotel or in a 500 capital and that sort of thing. Hotel. So I think those will have a positive impact on us. The Renegade, obviously, I think will have a positive impact. So it should help room tax revenues for next year for sure. But again, those are built into the budget for next year.
Is the old Holiday Inn out by the airport, is that operational or are they?
They're looking to tear it down and create a multi-use project out there. There's a hotel component, there's a limited housing component and apartments.
And the temple, either Islamic, Hindu, something
Yeah.
like that as part of it too.
So is it being used at all right now or is it kind of shut down? So that might account for, I don't know how long.
Yeah, I just saw that I read an article a week or two ago that there's some funding issues. Anyway, that project's on hold for right now for a variety of reasons. I'm not sure all of them. Again, we talked about demand and revenues. Revenues are consistently still high. Pardon me. Even though lower occupancy, it's the increase in rate. Even though the rate was marginal for August, it was $1. But again, it's still, when you look at the number, 100,000 room nights, obviously there's a difference. So again, rates and demand revenues still positive in the marketplace. The pipeline continues to get full, particularly for 24, 25 is already a challenge. Part of the, I don't want to steal Cody's thunder. I'll let him talk about some of the arm wrestling and some of the phone calls you all might get in 2025 from constituents because they can't get in. So I'll leave that to Cody to tell you about. But otherwise, again, the sales team is doing great. I'll be at IMEX in October, International Meetings and Expositions with our sales team. Nathan from the Grove Hotel is going with their salespeople, and then the CVB has 2 representatives going. So again, we're forecasting we're budgeting 70 conventions. There tends to be a little fallout, a couple of cancellations in the year for those that are in the pipeline that just don't come to fruition. But again, forecasting a strong year for next year.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and board members. We continue to have a strong year with our revenues over our expenses on a consolidated basis. We're over budget by about $3 million on a combined basis. Mike and I and Cody it was interesting, we were visiting about this slide and about the Boise Center revenues and how the tax revenues and the Boise Center revenues seem to run neck and neck. But when you look at it and go, how does that correlate, right? There's not a real direct correlation between the two, but anyway, they're still running neck to neck. And then I looked at that and I'm like, what were we thinking when we did 7.7 in the budget? And I can remember we were anticipating a recession. And so when you see that difference, that's, so anyway, we're at 10.5 is our forecast. We had another $1 million month and it just, I mean, every month we get the report from the state and we just go, how can this be? But anyway, the tax revenues are going strong. And then for the Boise Center, I thought I took out 20 and 21. So, but this just shows how the revenues continue to increase for the Boise Center. We've got a forecast of 10 million for 2023. And then I've been looking at a 12-month rolling forecast, and it's been remaining steady at about 10.4. And when you see the budget, you'll see that that's the number that we have in the Boise Center budget for revenues as well. You know, there's not much here to talk about. We continue to have revenues and gross margin compared to budgets favorable. We have, when we talk about unfavorable, while they're unfavorable, that we still as a total sales, general and administrative expenses are under budget. But our repairs and maintenance, I went back and looked at 2 or 3 years history, and it's in 2019 it was 59,000, 2021 was 111. The prior, for 22, I did a prior 12 months, that was 113, and then when we changed our capital threshold, this last 12 months is $225,000 in repairs. So you can see it's just about a doubling based on raising that capitalization threshold and expensing more repairs. With the parking, it's increased about 21%, and then insurance, we were in a 3-year contract for rate. But what has caused our insurance to continue to go up is the increasing building values, because we have replacement costs. And the quote Pat just got was $525, and so we were using I think it was $378 in our valuation. And so when we raise that to $525, that of course raises the values. So it looks like we might have about a 10% increase in our insurance costs related to increasing values, not related to the change in the rate. Our square foot utilization by month continues to run very strong. If you look at the utilization by year, again, that's the years, so it gives you an idea of how it's continuing to increase year over year. The 2023 forecast shows an increase. And of course, then the utilization for the forecast is low, as we would anticipate. It'll pick up as we go through the year. The Aquatic Center, we're actually now billing the full rent of $40,000 a month. The investment in the aquatics building, $9,582,788. We did disperse about another 20,000 this month, so that'll get us right up to about 9.6. Again, and here's just tracking the recession and where we're headed. The leading economic indicator change was a -4. It was a -4.2. What was it with COVID? They came out and they said the worsening is less. But anyway, still an indication that there might be a recession coming. We certainly aren't seeing it on the revenue side here. And then in front of you, you have the budget draft. We met with, as Pat said, met with the finance committee, presented our business plan, got their blessing. And this is a first blush. We'll continue to put a finer tip on it as we go through the next couple of weeks. And like, for example, with the insurance, right? So we'll go ahead and make an adjustment to the insurance. But go ahead and take a look at it. We are showing $10,390,000 for the district, 10 million.
Do you want to approve the D? You want to approve on C or?
Do we need to? I mean,
Your action item is C, so.
Yeah, do we have to? I thought you said.
You don't have, oh, that's right, yeah, no, you don't have to,
We
so,
have to
perfect.
approve it, we can just,
You're just gonna go,
Thank you.
perfect, great, okay,
sounds good. Let's move on to the
sorry,
budget.
go ahead.
Yeah.
That's right. Is 10.3, which goes back to our comment about how they seem to run hand in hand. We are working to keep the gross margin. We're running right at 15% this year, and the budget that we'll bring will run at 15% with our goal to continue to improve the gross margin as we go throughout the year. Part of that is we're full from a utilization perspective, and if we're gonna increase the profit margin, it's gonna be because we're able to use the smaller spaces in conjunction with a larger event, and so do more multi events in any given day. But it's certainly much more work for us to pair those up in a way that works for both events. We show at the bottom that we're gonna give, or there'll be about 3.5, 2.4 coming back, with a total of available for projects will be about 3.5. One of the things I've changed this year is if you look at the green box that says ending cash, and then there's the stabilization fund. We've felt like that we should be putting the debt in there to show how much debt we have. And so we've put the debt balance in there and then the lease fund. So that's where you come to the 3.5 million. And the reason we've put the debt in there is because as you're going through this, it's always something that you need to look at and say, do we want to pay the debt off? Or do we want to do another project? And by doing it this way, it shows us if we were to pay the debt off, this would be how much would be left for another project.
That potential to pay off debt, excuse me, happens after year 10, right?
Yes,
Yes.
What's the interest rate? On the,
it's a little under 5.
Okay.
Well, 4 something. The true in cost. Are there any questions? So I'm not asking for an approval of the budget. If you have any questions, you have my phone number, you have my email. Reach out and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any like highlights or things that you want to kind of point to that maybe have changed in this year versus previous years, or?
I mean, some of the staffing changes, we've created a technical services department now. We've had obviously AV and operations. IT kind of is in its own silo. We've merged AV and IT into one technical services department. So I brought on an additional director at that level. We had an IT manager before, so I'm not filling the IT manager role. I've filled that with a director of technical services. A little higher cost on that side. But I believe, again, this is going to help drive that department some additional revenue on the AV side, as well as take advantage from the IT component to see what we can do to either continue to enhance services or drive more revenue.
Overall, it's pretty much a very similar budget to last year when you know, slight increase in revenues. And pretty much our business plan is the same as what we've done this past year.
While there's potential for a recession, I mean, most of our contracts are in place, and I talked about this, where we've got about 8.5 forecasted on the books currently for business that's tentative or better. And that leaves us out there for about another $2 million in revenue. That's that kind of what we estimate we pick up within the year. So there's those opportunities, and a recession could change that a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think the cake is in the oven and it's gonna come out 24 the way it is looking, so.
In 2008, when the recession hit, then we didn't lose a group. All the conventions met that were contracted, and the local events still met. What we saw was a decline in the number of attendees. You know, I think one of the considerations, again, it's crystal ball stuff, but you know, depending on what goes on with energy, with gas prices, as you look at the potential for increased cost on price per barrel, you know, there's a lot of discussion now about oil hitting $100 a barrel. And, you know, what's that gonna do to people's travel budgets? Because there's gonna be an incremental increase in anything that burns gas, whether it be jets, trains, or automobiles. So, you know, is that gonna be an impact? Who knows? But that's a consideration. The other thing is retention. You know, if we want to continue to retain the best staff, there's gonna be a cost to that. And, you know, we've heard projections anywhere from 4 to 8% from a couple of companies that we use for wage increases. We've had 2 companies do analysis for us, and Cody and I and Anne Marie are gonna go through that here in the next week. So, you know, as we update some of the numbers in here. The good news is the demand for our space is still extremely strong. It's just how we balance, but I think again, in next year's tight 25, we're already the spring of 2025. There's already arm wrestling going on between the event managers and sales team. Again, good news. Heavy demand is just how these guys get to manage that. So seriously though, you know, the good news is we try to work very, very hard to make you all proud of what we do. And so when you're on the street talking to people and constituents, and you're at events either here or somewhere else, that, you know, you can be proud when you say I'm a board member for the district, and, you know, I'm Boise Center. And because you all are public officials, you truly might get a couple of phone calls or run into a couple of people who complain about our rates or our availability and that sort of thing. So it's already happened to one of the board members this year, and we've had some conversations with clients, and it's been positive. You know, the outcomes are positive. People understand. But anyway.
No, speak a little bit to the increases under the repairs and maintenance. Obviously, for Boise Center East, we didn't have elevators, escalators, and those are driving some of those costs up as those continue to age. Those pieces of equipment are very expensive to maintain. And that's driving some of those increases on that side, along with what Henry spoke to, which is that threshold for capital, the dollar amount for a capital item. Now, some of those items that were smaller than the previous threshold are getting expensed.
I'll throw in real quick. I went back and I was curious, 2004, operational revenues were 3.1 million. That's 2004. Room taxes were 2.7 million. In 2014, so 10 years later, we were doing 3.6 million in revenue operation. Room taxes were up to 4.8. That's on the graph. And now we're at 10.4, you know, million, 10.5 for next year for 24. And in operational and room taxes, we're taking, I think, projecting at 11. So if you take a look, and clearly it's due to East. And one of the things that I want to make a phone call to, who is now a friend, but he was our biggest nemesis back in the day, and let him know that, you know, because we used to go head to head back in 2004, 2005, when we were trying to get the expansion built, and I'd go to these meetings, and so there would be a representative from Meritel there, and then myself. And, you know, the first thing was, you know, it's going to fail, and you're going to have, you know, it's going to end up in the tax rolls, and you're going to have to pay for this building, and tripling our revenue in the course of 20 years, I think is pretty impressive. So particularly, you know, and you know, the change at the Supreme Court, quite frankly, a lot of people, the naysayers who, you know, didn't like the way we were funding it, or that it would be successful. And again, I certainly respect that point of view for sure. So there's no criticism there, but it's just a matter of, you know, we built it and they came.
Madam Chair, I'm just wondering, I know we have the cash balances. I know you all hired Clearwater years ago. And so the revenues, or whatever it is we call it, from whatever the investments are, where does that show up?
In the revenues for the district. So you,
So district revenues, it's not just taxes, it includes,
it's all revenue.
Because it must be earning $400,000, right? You're probably earning 2%.
No, we're not, I don't think, no, not 2 to 3%.
Sorry, I was, so the district revenue number, I just always assumed the district revenue number was just tax revenue. It's also your interest.
Yeah, and you have amortization of your pre-order. And the market gains and losses, unrealized, of course.
We're gonna add one additional board meeting before, it's just gonna be with the finance committee, before that October 23rd meeting. To have one more, and I think we're looking at that either Monday, Tuesday, or possibly Friday before. We'll lock that in, hopefully by the end of this week. And that's an opportunity for you guys to ask any additional questions, at least through the finance committee. If there's any other, and then we can move to that October 23rd date.
One of the items that we'll be reviewing at the finance committee is the reserve. You'll see on there that there's a reserve, which is, or the stabilization fund, which is $6 million. It's based on operating expenses and capital expenses. And as we're growing, those are going up. And so there is potentially an increase in the reserve that we'll need. It really doesn't affect how we invested, it just affects the financial statements.
And if any board members have any questions, they can reach out to you directly as well. Or you can filter questions through Jody and myself, and we can ask them at the meeting. Feel free to ask any questions before the next meeting, and we'll look for approval, right?
Marketing plan needs to be approved at the October meeting as well. And so I believe Tim and Chase are marketing committee. And so if, I don't think he's gotten it out yet. Cliff has been attending the media summit as well as Mary Michael's attended some of the breakouts. So Cliff is going to be sending out an email, I think shooting for the first week of October to try to get together. But again, just whatever works for you all. And we'll post, we'll post it. It'll be posted just like we did the finance committee, since there will be 2 board members there.
Could accommodate a call in, or we can shift if we need to. So
The first week of October might be a little tough. Okay. But I'll work with Cliff, I'm sure. Chase and Cliff will find an alternative if need be.
Pretend you're in Germany and call it 3 in the morning.
I wish next week, if only that could be.
Okay, any other questions at this time regarding the budget for anybody? They need some time to digest.
Yeah.
Feel free to reach out. So let us know and we'll get answers for you.
Right. Thank you, everybody. I know the budget is a time-consuming proposition every year, so appreciate the effort that goes into that.
Madam Chair, I would like to recognize Joanne Camberry-Smith, who has been a senior accountant for us. She retired sort of, but said, I'll take on Questica. Questica is the new software program. And she took the lead on that. Anne Marie has certainly been participating wholly as well, and their whole team. But Cody loves analytics, and he's really excited about the potential that this software has. But Joanne has worked really hard on getting this in. It's a new program for us, and she's pretty much a remote worker. But this has been her primary duty, and she even had
She postponed her hip surgery so she could work on the Questica.
yeah. So,
Dedication.
but anyway, she's very much behind the scenes, but very vital to the success of how we put this budget together. And collectively, I know those two have, Cody and Amory worked really hard on Amory particularly. So anyway, just want to recognize the team for the amount of time and effort they put into a particular system. So.
New system is unbelievable. It's going to allow us to make very clear data-driven decisions going forward. I mean, just the comparative reports that I can see from a trend side or going back into our history. I'm just remembering how we did it last year in Plate IQ or Plan Guru was the system, and I had spreadsheets all over my desk, and I had 3 different screens up, and I could do most what I did with desks piled full of spreadsheets last year. So again, feeling like we're headed in the right direction from the technology side.
Anything else? Thank you. Moving on to other business. At Chase Cody. Discussion of project.
Madam Chair, as the board directed, Chase as representative of the board, and then work with Cody and I and staff on fielding questions and phone calls about other projects. Chase felt it was important to do an update. Last month, Jody had asked, after there was a press release out about CWI project, and so Jody had some questions. So Chase thought it would be important to make sure that you all were aware of all the outreach that's been done, and a couple of recent meetings, obviously with CWI. So I'll let Chase speak to that.
Yeah, so I'm just recap, we've had a lot of meetings, and you guys saw the email that I sent over to Pat and forwarded over, and the meetings are interesting, and there's a lot of different ideas out there and a lot of things that could be good for the community. But overall, not a lot of them that fit the different 5 criteria that we have to hit and the different statutes that we have to do, which are very interesting to hear. Pat go through and be like, all right, well, here's how we have to operate. Out of the 6 meetings we had, we had to write them down. Botanical Gardens, Boise Contemporary Theater, BSU, CWI, a stadium, performing arts facility. I think that's all of them, maybe. The one that made the most sense to, probably the only one that made sense to have follow-up meetings on, was with CWI over on the old Bob Rice Ford spot. And still having conversations there. Construction costs are pretty tough to make work out. And we haven't even gotten into any hard numbers. It's high level stuff. And it seems pretty challenging to do some of the proposed expansions and ideas that we had all talked about at those little preliminary meetings. But we're still in conversations with them to see if there's something that would work over there that still fits those 5 buckets. It's a great spot. Could be a great spot for us to help do something that fits the community and brings a lot of more hotel rooms in.
What are the construction costs running right now?
Well, it depends on which type of project, I guess. Like, I think you actually had asked Pat to look into stuff for the Performing Arts Center. What was that, like $900 to $1,350 a foot?
However day you want the space, how nice you want it.
And to duplicate what we have here, which is kind of what the discussion was, hey, what do we really need? Well, we need more meeting space. We need another Boise Center. And cost was in excess of 500 a square foot. So that shuts, and the smallest reasonable facility that we talked about was around 120,000 square feet. And it's really mostly ballroom, bigger ballroom space so that we can move big local events. And 120,000 square feet, over 500 a square foot, it's over $50 million, and that's just not. Anne Marie ran a couple of different spreadsheets in a couple of different ways, and it just, even if we could bond for it, right? Just because we can doesn't mean we should or could actually pay the debt service on it. So it unfortunately, that particular element is just not achievable for another Boise Center. So what else? The Performing Arts Center came up. Chase grabbed me and said, "Hey, we've been talking about other projects. What does a indoor, outdoor, multi-purpose facility look like? What's the cost per square foot on something like that?" We've been talking about that very openly and publicly for a couple of years over it. Try to do that over at the fairgrounds, but we never really never took it far enough to get a cost factor. So, so the marching orders for me have been, you know, let's take a look at that. What's that going on? CSL did a study for Meridian, and I haven't heard anything real specific about that, so I can reach out to CSL and see what they're looking at, it sort of across the country, cost per square foot. Obviously, a couple of local, or, you know, construction firms, I can call those guys too, but anyway, sorry.
No, that's exactly right. I wanted to see what that kind of a project might look like and see if it could be a fit here. Because yeah, it has been talked about since before I've been on the board, probably long before. But don't know what the costs are like to see if that's feasible.
I know Pocatello is looking to expand theirs. They're putting some funding package together. Theirs is currently 40,000 square feet, but it's busy all the time. In fact, I know Chase and Nick Shova on my staff, they've had events that they've attended over in Pocatello, and my counterpart over there says they're busy all the time. Local stuff during the week, and then tournaments that bring in people from all over the area on weekends. Everything from pickleball to basketball to volleyball, indoor tennis, dance cheer competitions.
The same is true for the Treasure Valley Athletic Center out in Meridian. It's a multi-use indoor sports facilities. Lots of tournaments on weekends.
Where's that?
It's off of Franklin. It's by the Idaho State Police. It's an old indoor soccer indoor facility that they repurposed. So I spend my weekends and the evenings there watching my daughter play volleyball tournaments, which is just, you know, tournament to start at 7 p.m. tells you that there's a lot of demand.
Just out of curiosity, what was the per square foot price of the expansion? Not to make you bring that up off the top of your head.
I want to say it was 378, but I need to go back and.
You mean east?
Mhm.
So how many square feet then?
Total gross was 68,000.
68 or 67, yeah, it's gotta be over our bonds. 25, that's what I was thinking. Obviously, it's terrible.
I wanna
Do
say
we
it
have a
was-
reserve fund?
I remember it was at 300 something. I don't remember where,
360.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Wow, so now they're over five.
Is that labor, material, both?
Yes. Yeah. And as Pat was talking about fuel costs going over 100 a barrel, everything else is gonna go to your food budget is going up.
So that it being cost prohibitive isn't something that's gonna change in the near future, unlikely.
Just takes more money down.
You know, the other concern, Tim, is landlocked. You know, we're landlocked now and, you know, short of getting the arena, right? Which they're very busy. They're not even interested in coming to the table anymore, which is good for them. But again, whatever we do, you know, again, if it was. But the other consideration is that, you know, landlocked, there's nowhere to go to do anything bigger. And so, I mean, I think it's a interesting, good problem to have as we look through and analyze, but, you know, more importantly, we wanted to let the board know that yes, we continue to have very high level conversations, but the reality of the requests have been nothing really that we can do. There's no one at this point who's, you know, can bring anything to the table for the board as a presentation. So here's what we want to do. I mean, the preliminaries have pretty much weeded all those out. So
You're looking at 50 million plus for either convention center or performing arts. It's gonna be 1,300 square foot. That's
well, and you take a look at, again, what the goal of the board ends up being, if it's you know, some return on the investment, i.e. room nights, it's gonna, I think, have your focus go one direction. If it's community supported, it's gonna, you know, drive the thought process a different way. but without some sort of a, that room night generation to help offset the ongoing costs associated with a project that is important but more community driven. I mean, those are all the conversations we have at the time.
Especially if the costs are that high, right? I mean, that's the problem. And this is where, just in my mind, we keep going back to the aquatics facility, the public-private partnership, something like that works really well, where, they have the operational authority, they throw in some money, we throw in some money, everybody kind of throws things into a pot and makes it work. So with the price tag being as high as it is, it's hard to take that on all by ourselves without getting some sort of income from somewhere else or somebody else to throw in some money to it, or
Well, as you've already heard, the ongoing costs of maintenance for capital, and that, again, sort of a double-edged sword. We've established a very, very high benchmark here for quality of service, quality of finish. I mean, you hear it from the groups that are in, particularly groups from out of town like we have over in East right now. Even they comment about how beautiful everything is, how nice the facility is. And I mean, we see things that, okay, we can't wait to get that fixed, but to the client side and to people that Kristen works with in that industry as meeting planners, I mean, we've established a high benchmark and we're proud of it. And thanks to you all as the board's support to be able to do those kind of things. But as we get into this, 2 buildings now and next year capital plan of, a couple, $3 million. And again, we've managed that really well. We tend not to spend all of it just because of shifting of projects, but again, those costs are just going to be the ongoing, and everything the roof has a 20-year lifespan, so we're a ways from that still. But those are big ticket items of $300,000. To paint the building, it's $300,000 now. So I mean, it's just and then when you add another facility into that, regardless of what it looks like, at some point in time, if we have to contribute to capital needs, that's going to put pressure on that room tax commitment. So anyway, all high level conversations and things that are important, but for right now, again, just making you aware, pretty much everybody we've talked to, with the exception of the CWI site, great conversations, and there's a lot of need out there. It's great creativity by some of these organizations. I mean, even the zoo, I think I mentioned the zoo on there, but yeah, good conversation. We just wanted to let you know what it was, make sure that everybody's on the same page.
So,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, just kind of remind the board about process that you and Pat have created over the years, which are that, again, you delegated to Jason and Pat the kind of preliminary discussions with folks, and the reasons for that are that they can have those preliminary discussions without needing to worry about open meeting laws, because we only have one board member who's just doing all that weeding out, I guess.
and what a more perfect board member, commercial, right?
Absolutely. And and then as again, the board and Pat have created over the years, if there's a more formal something's a little more concrete, then there's a process involved where folk on our website, folks go fill out the forms, do all those or jump through all those hoops to sort of start a more formal process like the Aquatic Center folks eventually did. So we've got sort of several different, maybe that's not passed, but several different steps that folks jump through before it ever really gets to the board at all for a discussion. So I think Jason, Pat, I'm assuming that it's all sort of working as we contemplated. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it sounds like keep fishing, right? See what happens.
We're chumming.
Yep. Chum away. Any questions for Chase and Pat team on that? Let us know if, anything gets to the point of, yeah, right? I mean, especially with like the CWI property, that's a great location, great piece of ground. It'd be nice to have something happen, but we gotta make it work financially, right? I mean, just because you can, you should.
Well, and one thing, in the 525 that he quoted, doesn't include the cost,
Yeah, right.
because that would be a land lease.
Well, like I said, keep fishing. Thank you. Appreciate the update. All right. Pseudo Ryan.
Ryan apologized that he couldn't be here. But some pretty cool things. He said, on Sunday, they bid for the Western Zone meet again and were awarded the chance to host in 2024. It's the same one that they just had. They're up against Portland, Mount Hood. They were selected by a group of 100 officials, athletes, and coaches from Western US. We have established a great reputation and people love our facility.
So they won that.
Yep.
Great.
So they're going to continue to look for opportunities to bid for large and host large events. Currently, they have over 800 enrollments. Several classes have a wait list. I know
Most classes have a wait list.
adding new classes when possible and when instructors are available. Competition pool, 3 club teams participate: Sawtooth, Streamliners, and BSC. I didn't get a clear. I'm not going to guess. I don't know what BSC is, but 3 high school teams: BK, Boise, and Timberline use the facility. Masters swimming for adults, water polo 2 to 3 times a week. I'd have to look into that based on my increased availability of time. Between 4 and 7, every lane in both pools is occupied.
Yep.
He invites the board out anytime to go out, call Nick, let him know you'd like to come out, take a look, and just to observe. Kristen has mentioned that it's busy.
Bananas. And your kiddos just started out there.
Yep.
And what do you think?
It's great, but it is busy.
Yeah.
Those lanes are going the entire time we're there. They even have people using the turf outside in the back for some sort of training. Off the field is there.
Okay.
So they're using the outside portion, not even the swim. So
Cool.
it's busy.
The events, the Brave Knights Invitational High School is this weekend. 323 athletes, about 100 from out of town. High School District 3 championships are October 26th with 500 local athletes. The Sawtooth Invitational is January 12th to 14th. 500 visiting athletes, commitments from California, Washington, Arizona, and Colorado already. On Sunday, Boise bid against Portland to host the 2024 Western Zone Age Group Championships and was awarded the meet. Same meet they held in August. Teams from around the Western US were so impressed with the facility that they were chosen to host for a 2nd year in a row. So, yeah, it's gone well. It's been very well received.
Yeah, and I think the swim meet in January is when they're putting on themselves. They're hosting that, so. We should be, yeah, I mean, we should go see it. Something. Actually, I'm headed there. Any questions? Anything we didn't cover? No? All right, that's shorter than I thought it was gonna be. But I guess seeing no other business before the board meeting's adjourned.
That was